welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. And thanks to the Golden State Warriors, we have more basketball to talk about. This series continues. We've got a big show for you today. Much more fallout from Kevin Durant's injury. The Lakers and Pelicans are engaged in trade talks as we speak for AD. Well, we're going to start with the aforementioned NBA Finals, which continue. The Raptors did have a chance to close it out in Game 5. They came up just short. So tonight, series shifts back to Oracle for Game 6. No Kevin Durant, obviously, for the Warriors, but they're still favored by 2.5 points. This Warriors team locked into the here and now on what they need to do to force a Game 7. Not easy to do with so many questions surrounding the future of this team.
I expect us to obviously come out and play as hard as we can. We're not even thinking about the future. We're just thinking about enjoying this last show at Oracle we're about to give our fans. Then I expect our fans to be the loudest they've ever been, especially in the name of Kevin and, you know, bringing his type of spirit he would bring to the fight and the competitiveness. I know our fans will do that because we deserve it, but more importantly, Kevin does for what he gave this team, this organization. There wouldn't be banners if it wasn't for his presence, so we expect our crowd to be loud for him.
I don't think much needs to be said about the motivation that we have or are going to have tomorrow. Like Clay said, to protect our home court, feed off our crowd's energy, play for K, and try to keep our season alive. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can kind of tap into for energy tomorrow. We'll be ready.
Not that they need to. These are the Warriors. They've done that before. They've been here before. But see, can the Warriors force a Game 7?
Absolutely they can. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Oracle, the Warriors, they do deserve it. The NBA, they deserve it. They were able to hold off the Raptors in game number 5, which was tremendous atmosphere for them to be able to get their 4th win. So, yes, this is one of the greatest basketball teams I've ever seen. They able to play 48 minutes of basketball at home with the type of energy going to be in the building? Yes, but a number of things are going to have to happen, and it's not the guys that we heard from. I'm not worried about Clay. I'm not worried about Steph. But I am worried about the other players, and they become more important or just as important as the two main cogs in their offense, and that's Draymond Green and that's Boogie Cousins. Are they going to be able to make shots? The Warriors, in 2 of their wins, Boogie Cousins has scored in double figures. Draymond Green, it's those open looks. It's not, is he going to make shots? It's those wide open looks, because if he misses those shots, it really reinforces Nick Nurse and the type of defense that they're trying to play. Now, yes, there's a number of Raptors that have to be able to get involved in this. They're going to have a say, but I believe that Boogie Cousins, if he's able, and I think that we should take some time to be able to compliment Boogie on what he was able to do in game number 5. For the first time, Nick, you pointed out in his career, the coaching staff had gone to him and told him he was not going to play. But you know something that did not change? Besides his overall reputation after this run he's been on in Golden State, I believe is going to change. He went through his normal pregame shooting routine. He went through his normal conditioning that he would do before the games. Because lo and behold, no one knows it. Kevin Durant gets injured. He gets forced in. He's the 3rd center off the bench, guy who has started every single time. When he's been in the league, he's been a starter. And it's hard to give that up. So to see Boogie Cousins, a person who's received a lot of criticism, to see him be able to adapt, play a key part in that game, and he will be playing late in the 4th quarter. And if he plays well, the Warriors' chances of forcing a game number 7, I believe, Nick, they're real.
Well, listen, we know that Clay and Steph are going to play well, or we think we know that. Can there be a third guy to where those 3 people, Clay, Steph, and Draymond, Clay, Steph, Iguodala, Clay, Steph, Boogie, those 3 guys going to need to combine for around 85 points tonight. Pencil Clay and Steph in for 65. I think they're going to be able to do it. Can one of those other 3 main Warriors get a 20-point game, which we have not been able to see them do in this NBA Finals? to me, that is the clearest path for the Warriors to win, along with the home crowd carrying them, along with Pascal Siakam missing open shots and Danny Green staying in this little mini 2-game shooting slump that is very real. The first play of the fourth quarter of Game 5, the Raptors drew up a brilliant play to get Danny Green a wide-open corner 3, and Danny Green clanged a wide-open corner 3. They need him to get going. But I'll be honest, I am as conflicted about this pick, about this game, as any game these NBA playoffs, because logic and reasoning says I should hammer the Toronto Raptors. They have been better. They have dominated this series. They are healthier, and they're slight underdogs. But the Warriors, maybe it's 5 years of watching them. Maybe it's the aura of Oracle. Maybe it's because I just saw Steph and Clay turn a 6-point deficit into a 3-point lead like that. It's scary. It's scary to say, are you really going to go out and say the Warriors, this part of their dynasty is going to end in their building, in this game, with that level of emotion? The X's and O's, the analytics say the Raptors not only should be favored, but should be favored by 4 or 5 points instead of underdogs by 2 or 3. And so that says there'd be value in picking the Raptors, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it.
Why do you think, the Warriors are favored? It's a small number, but why do you think the Warriors are favored in this one?
A lot of times, just as a former athlete, I don't really get caught up into the line. Because the line, to me, is not really the true breakdown of who's going to win the game. The line is just betting. It's about betting. You know,
and about trying to get even money on both sides.
Yes, and I could understand the Warriors. They should be the favorite. It's Game 6, last game in Oracle. I don't see any circumstances that Toronto would be an underdog, but they shouldn't be an underdog with the margin that they are the underdog. You have to be able to give the Warriors credit for getting through game number 5. Now, as an athlete, I don't believe in too much in riding on the emotion of the hometown crowd. I don't believe in playing for another player. Because in real time, when you're trying to shoot your jump shot, I can't be thinking about Kevin Durant. Now, it sounds good in the press conference, and all those things are really, really nice. But will it have an effect on the game? Does it make you grab another rebound? Does it make you get on the floor for a loose ball? No. The Warriors are going to be all in. They got a championship organization. They're going to play as hard as they can. But as I told you at the beginning of the series, Toronto was a better basketball team without Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant is not going to be there. And all those 11 points and those 12 minutes that he played, they needed those in game number 5 just to be able to get that 1-point win.
See, it's been, almost 30 years, 29 years and counting since you had a drink, right?
Yes.
Correct? All right. So you're not very familiar as an adult with hangovers. It's been about, for me, less than 29 days since I've had a hangover, so I know how long they can affect you. That's why the Warriors are favored. Because the betting public, Vegas, whomever, is concerned about what I am concerned about. Do the Raptors have a hangover from, we had it.
We were right there.
We were up 6.
Trophy was being wheeled out.
We were right there. And can you recover? Can you rally just 72 hours later in a hostile environment against a desperate team? If they don't have a hangover, then they will be champions, I believe, because they are better. They will be able to overcome the home court. But if they have any bit of it, we saw the Warriors in a similar situation where they had to go on the road into Game 6 after losing to Game 5. They actually outplayed the Cavs in that game for the second, third, and fourth quarters. They were down 31-11 after the first quarter. They were not ready, and that's why they lost that game in Cleveland. And then this coin flip game in Game 7. That is what Toronto has to try to avoid tonight, letting the Warriors jump on top of them early.
One thing, if Clay's going to talk about the crowd and playing to the crowd, watch Draymond Green. Draymond is one technical away from getting suspended.
From missing Game 7.
So when you talk about energy, you better make sure that Draymond Green appropriates his energy the right way and at the right people. Now, I don't think the referees will have a quick whistle.
No.
But let's just watch Draymond. Let's just watch how he acts. Let's just watch in the most hyped atmosphere that we'll ever see in Oracle in the last game. Let's see how he handles that.
Long day at work? Tough day at school? Still stuck at the office? Treat yourself to the meal you deserve on demand from your favorite restaurant. Restaurants come to you with DoorDash. DoorDash connects you to all your favorite restaurants in your city. Ordering is easy. Just use the DoorDash app and choose what you want to eat, and your Dasher will bring it to you, wherever you are. Not only is that burger place you love on DoorDash already, but over 310,000 other amazing restaurants are too. DoorDash connects you with door-to-door delivery in over 3,300 cities and all 50 states across the United States and Canada. Order from your local go-tos or choose from your favorite chains like Chipotle, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, and the Cheesecake Factory. Right now, our listeners can get $5 off their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code FTF. That's $5 off your first order when you download the DoorDash app from the App Store and enter promo code FTF. Again, that's promo code FTF for $5 off your first order from DoorDash. Back to the show.
Let's talk some U.S. Open now. Coverage tees off at 12:30 Eastern on FS1. Tiger Woods tees off at 5:09. If you are teeing off anywhere and you're not near a TV, you can watch it all on the Fox Sports app. Tiger and company will be at Pebble Beach, where Woods won the first of his 3 career U.S. Opens. Cris Carter, what has to happen for Tiger to compete for a 16th career major this week?
Oh, this is amazing. Tiger Woods grew up in Southern California, but he grew up playing this type of golf course. Pebble Beach, one of the most iconic golf courses in the world. He had the record-breaking performance in year 2000. What does he have to do? This is one of the shorter golf courses we're ever going to see in championship competition. So the Tiger Woods right now, what does he lead the tour in? Greens in regulation. It becomes very, very important. The golf course is set up. For those who are golfers might understand this. You have to hit the ball from left to right. That's had a little fade. If you're looking for who's going to be a favorite, you have to look who's going to hit the fairways, who has iron play that's good, who's going to hit the ball left to right. And Tiger Woods, I believe, is going to do that. I believe he's going to have a sensational, epic type of weekend. Watch for the weather, though. Hope that it doesn't get too foggy. At this time of the year there, they get a little fog. He had a problem at the PGA because the temperature here in New York at the time, very, very cold. Hard on his back. He couldn't get warmed up. That's why we weren't able to see the Tiger that we saw at Augusta National. But I'm expecting big things this weekend, Jenna, because Tiger Woods is the greatest iron player in the history of golf, and that's what this game will be about. The second shots into those very, very small greens that he is very familiar with.
So you mentioned he's first on tour in greens in regulation. There's only one other stat he's top 3 in, and that's birdie percentage. His problem has not that he's had a lot of problems. He's had an excellent year so far. It's not that he is not scoring. It's that he's undone the good work that he's done with a few really bad holes. That's what happened to the PGA.
Yes.
It was the double bogeys.
The big mistakes.
It was the big numbers, the big crooked numbers that you want in baseball that you do not want in golf. And if we even go back the last 4 majors, the British Open, what happened to him when he had the lead on the back 9 on Sunday? The big mistake that led to a double bogey totally unnecessarily that took him from leading the tournament to where he was, I think he finished 6th in that tournament because of what happened on that hole and the ensuing holes. He avoided that at the Masters. Mm-hmm. He was unable to avoid that at the PGA this year. So that's the question. We know he's going to score. We know that when you see the scorecard at the end of the round, he's going to have 3 to 5 red numbers. The question is, does he have how many of the green, what is it, black? Depending on the graphics, and how many of them have the extra square around them? 1 square you can deal with. The extra square, which means double bogey, you can recover in a major championship from maybe 1 of those. And this is what happened was it the U.S. Open last year that Tiger started the tournament with a triple bogey on the very first hole, and it was over. You talked about how I waited all day to watch him, and the tournament's over 1 hole into it. He has to avoid that, especially early on. I know it sounds obvious. Everyone wants to avoid double bogeys, but that's what cost him in the PGA. That's what cost him in last year's British when he had a lead in the tournament. And then, of course, he's going to have to contend with Brooks Koepka, who is as hot right now
as you can be.
Nearly as hot as Tiger was when he did the Tiger Slam.
Yes.
I mean, he's won 4 of the last 8 majors he's played in, and in one of the 4 he didn't win, he finished 2nd. He has been sensational, going for his 3rd straight U.S. Open.
You mentioned this is a shorter course. Does that help Tiger? How does that play into his chances?
It should help Tiger because he does not have to always hit the least accurate club he has in his bag is his driver. So if he can get into the fairway with his 3-wood, with his 5-wood, with the long irons, when Tiger was at his best, he would dissect these golf courses, hitting irons, hitting other woods off the tee so they get into the fairway, because Tiger knows his strength. And with these small greens, and there's a certain type of grass, it's called poana grass, that grows in California. It buds late in the afternoon. The tee times will be late in the afternoon, so you will see a lot of balls in championship competition. The ball will be bouncing. And that's just the way it is. Tiger's very familiar with that, and there's no one that has ever won at Pebble Beach that wasn't able to master the poana green.
And if he can avoid having to hit driver a bunch, which the length of the course should help him on this par 71, that will play in his favor. He's 7th on tour this year in shots gained overall. That is despite being 71st in shots gained off the tee. Approach to the green, 13th. Around the green, 7th. Putting, he's fine. Like, it's the off the tee is what has really hurt him in that regard. So if you can go with driving iron, if you can go with 3-wood like you mentioned, you said before the show, and I think it's spot on, if everyone just had to drop their ball in the fairway for each hole and played from the same spot, Tiger would run away with this.
I bet all my money on Tiger.
Right.
If that was the case.
Right, and that's obviously not the case. So can he avoid being at a huge deficit against Koepka and DJ and these long ball, not only bombers, but guys that hit it straight? If he can, the other parts of his game should put him in a very advantageous
What's the name of the grass?
Poana.
You know your grass.
I do.
Time for stories to start your
show.
morning. NBA Finals Game 6 tonight. Raptors on the verge of their first ever championship. Warriors, though, favored by 2.5 at Oracle. See, what's the key for the Raptors to close this out tonight?
Man, the Raptors and their guards. Can they get some scoring productivity from their guards? Kyle Lowry, yo, homie, let's get shown. Danny Green, 2-game absentee. All right? Listen, if you want to get your first championship for the country of Canada, tonight is the way to do it. And the guys that have won, they said there's nothing like winning on someone else's court.
I'm going to add a different X factor for Toronto. Remember how we've talked about the Warriors? If Iggy makes shots, you lose.
Yeah.
If Pascal Siakam makes shots, the Warriors are going to lose. The Warriors have made the decision. We're leaving him open. We're just going to leave him open, and we're going to guard the other guys. He has had some great open looks that, honestly, since Game 1, he just hasn't been able to hit. If he makes shots tonight, the Raptors are going to be celebrating.
I believe Van Vliet will be back.
Oh, yeah.
The way we saw him the first 3 games of the series.
Gained a baby, lost a tooth. Moving on to Anthony Davis. Lakers and the Celtics seem to be your front runners right now. LA reportedly offering Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and that number 4 pick. Pelicans reportedly want Kyle Kuzma in that package. That's the sticking point there. On the Boston side, AD's agent Rich Paul told Sports Illustrated that if the Celtics trade for AD, he'd be simply a 1-year rental, and that's it. Nick, how do you see this all playing out?
Unless the Lakers botch this worse than they botched the coaching search, Anthony Davis is going to be a Laker. It is all set up perfectly for him. Anthony Davis, via his representation, have basically crossed off other possible suitors. The Lakers have the assets, and they got very fortunate in the lottery where they now have a premium draft pick to either give to New Orleans or to flip for a player that New Orleans wants. This should play out with Anthony Davis as a Laker, unless Rob Pelinka can't get the deal done for inexplicable reasons.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me a couple days after the NBA Finals, which I do believe ends tonight, Anthony Davis is traded to the Lakers. And the reason why is because Boston, they can't make a legitimate offer because he won't sign an extension there. The Knicks are there just, yes, he would like to go there, but he won't sign an extension with the Knicks. The only true player, Anthony Davis told his agent, I want to be with the Lakers. It's the only team I'll sign an extension, and that will dictate where he goes.
All right, moving on to Kyrie. Busy day for him yesterday. He reportedly opted out of his contract with Boston, ensuring that he'll become a free agent. He also reportedly moved on from his longtime agent and design Roc Nation, who coincidentally also reps Kevin Durant. Nick, what does all this mean for where Kyrie ends up next season?
I don't think it tells us much about where he ends up. I understand Roc Nations and the ties to Jay-Z. Jay-Z, obviously, the initial ties to the Brooklyn Nets, but I don't think those are necessarily correlated decisions. I think it shows a very savvy move by the folks at Roc Nation, doing what I think more folks should do in the agent business when you're dealing with a superstar that's going to get a max contract. We're going to waive the commission. on your player deal and just take commission on your marketing money, and it's a bad beat for Kyrie's longtime agent, 2 weeks away from a major payday that now he's not going to get.
Yeah, I don't think this steers him to Brooklyn. I believe it's a two-team race between the Knicks and Brooklyn because he wants to be on the East Coast. He's from the East Coast. But if I'm with an agent and he's got a brother that works for a team, you can believe that we've talked about it. That was part of the hiring process. I believe he wanted to move over to Rock Nation, but one of the heads of Rock Nation does have a brother that's an executive with the Nets.
All right, finally, talk some football. Cam Newton returned to the practice field on Tuesday, first time since his off-season surgery on his throwing shoulder, and he unveiled some new throwing mechanics. Ron Rivera said that it's the first step of many for Cam. Panthers hoping the new mechanics lead to more wins. They finished 7-9 last season. See, tell us what this new throwing motion means for Cam and the Panthers.
This is really what being a professional athlete is about. It's continuing to adjust. We know Cam's a freakish athlete. He's had success in this league, tremendous MVP season, but what's been the mark of Cam Newton? It's been inconsistency. It's been lack of disciplined feet. It's trying to use all of his natural talent and not using the torque of his body to be able to throw. So this is what you want. The greatest players are always making some type of adjustment in their game. Tom Brady, people didn't talk about it a lot, but he changed his throwing motion a number of years ago. Drew Brees has changed his throwing motion after having the really bad shoulder issue that he had there coming from the Chargers to the Saints. So this is what we've seen. I believe it will make him a little more accurate throwing the ball. It should make him a little more consistent, and it will make him depend on anticipation, because if he's going to grow as a quarterback, not only does he have to tighten up his fundamentals, tighten up his footwork, but he's got to have a little bit better anticipation by not letting the rush get to him and by delivering the football before the wide receivers are ready. I believe he was making tremendous strides last year with Scott Turner, who's the son of Norv Turner, who Cam Newton trusts. So a lot of times when you start seeing stuff, you see a guy working with the quarterback, especially a young quarterback coach like Scott, you wonder, wow, is he going to trust him? And that's the most important. Cam has surrendered all of his ability, everything that he knows about being a quarterback. And you have to realize, they didn't teach him anything about being a quarterback at Auburn. Ever since he was in the league, his number one offensive coordinator for the most of his time has been Shula. Shula is not no guru as far as teaching quarterbacks how to throw. So this is the thing. If Cam is going to sustain greatness, it's going to have to do with making adjustments, and I believe Scott Turner and Norv Turner are a godsend for Cam in his career.
And one of your critiques on Cam that has led to the inconsistency you've said is he had been a full upper body thrower.
Yes.
He doesn't use his big, powerful legs, his trunk, the way the most consistent quarterbacks do. It's all in the shoulder. And so I would love to demonstrate for the audience, but I got a bad shoulder. I had shoulder surgery. I'd rather you demonstrate for the. Can you show how Cam had thrown traditionally in his career, what it looks like, and what, on the very limited video we've seen, what he's trying to get it to?
Right. I think most people, when they see Cam, probably the biggest thing you see is when he throws the ball, he's typically off of his back foot. So you don't have the full torque that you can use. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, the reason why they're throwing the ball better now at a late age is because they're using their legs more, and they use this left arm to stay close to their body so they can create power from their lower half, and they're not using all their arms. So they create a lot of torque into their hips, which brings the shoulder around. That's why you see him stationary, getting used to that rotation. And
you see his
utilizing
hand.
his
You
hips.
even see his hand right up there.
Yes, you watch Tom Brady. If you watch all his little training techniques he does, watch how close Tom Brady keeps this left hand compared to the traditional of when I let go of the ball, the hand goes here. No, these quarterbacks are bringing it tight, which opens up your hip so you can generate more force.
And then just quickly, when you're used to throwing a certain way and you've had success doing it that way, how hard is it as an athlete 5, 6, 7, 8 years into the league to now first change, like your moneymaker, the most important thing, the most important skill you have?
It's one of the most dangerous things you can do in football. A quarterback changing his throwing motion, basketball trying to change a guy's shot. We had Blake Griffin talking about when he was trying to change his shot, he would lock the gym. He wouldn't even let people take video.
He said, "Look,
it was some ugly days, some dark days. There's going to be some days that he's not going to have confidence in it, but it will. If he sticks with it, which I believe that he will, it will increase his ability to be effective. No matter if they have a rush on him, he'll learn so much more about putting velocity on the ball, taking reps off the ball. These are things that you continue to learn as a quarterback.
And Cam was forced into it to a degree because the reason last year went sideways was because of a major shoulder injury. So that if you're going to make a change, doing it after an injury when you're recovering would be the time. But I'm going to cross a different sport that you didn't mention to a guy we've talked about today. Tiger Woods, before he ever got hurt, when he was the best player in the world, remade his swing entirely, had a down year because of it, and then once the swing was totally remade, hit the Tiger Slam, and all of a sudden played the greatest golf we have ever seen anyone play. If you are willing to make the sacrifice for it, it can elevate you to the next level. Cam might have been forced into it to a degree, but you would hope that this elongates his career, which has always been a concern about Cam. How long can he play?
Right.
How accurate and consistent can he be?
All right, let's move on to the latest on Kevin Durant now. The feared Achilles tear was confirmed yesterday. KD did, in fact, rupture his Achilles. He underwent surgery here in New York on Wednesday. Durant took to Instagram to make the announcement, saying, in part, "My road back starts now. I got my family and my loved ones by my side, and we truly appreciate all the messages and support people have sent our way. Like I said Monday, I'm hurting deeply, but I'm okay. Basketball is my biggest love, and I wanted to be out there that night because that's what I do. I wanted to help my teammates on our quest for the three-peat." Well, Steve Kerr spoke yesterday and defended the decision to clear Durant to play.
Kevin checked all the boxes, and he was cleared to play by everybody involved. Now, would we go back and do it over again? Damn right. But that's easy to say after the results. When we gathered all the information, our feeling was the worst thing that could happen would be a re-injury of the calf, and that was the advice and the information that we had. And at that point, once Kevin was cleared to play, he was comfortable with that. We were comfortable with that. So the Achilles came as a complete shock. So it's devastating, mostly for Kevin, obviously. But we made the decision collaboratively with all the information that we had, and we thought it was the right one.
Cece, tell me if I'm wrong here. I would imagine one of the things Steve Kerr said there, that the Achilles came into complete shock, was the thing that stuck out to you the most. You've been saying for well over a month now that a severe calf strain could very much, in fact, lead to an Achilles tear, which is exactly what happened to Kevin Durant.
Yeah, this made me feel worse. This made me feel like Kevin Durant didn't have a chance. Of course he should have played. If no one told him that he couldn't blow out his Achilles, the worst I can do is hurt my calf. Oh, man, I'm getting ready to play.
Of course.
I mean, everyone surrounded me. His agent, business partner, the team doctors, an outside consultant, a doctor. Like, I really feel bad for him because it's just as simple as this. He got bad advice because I tore my calf. And I know I talked to my therapist yesterday, tore my left calf, 3 weeks later, tore my right calf. And I knew every time I went onto the field, and I told him, man, if I jeopardize my career and I tear my Achilles, I'll kill you. And he said, Cris, I'm going to clean up your calf. I'm going to clean up your knee. When you go on the field, you're going to have full confidence to know you're not going to tear your Achilles. And I said, is it on the board? He said, no, not if you get everything cleaned up. And it has a lot to do with things behind the knee. It's not only the calf muscle, but you have to clean to make sure that there's no inflammation, that the Achilles is not stressed out. So I really feel bad for Kevin, because he didn't get the opportunity to make the right decision. Even though he thinks that he might have gone out there, it's nice to give him that information. It'd been nice for someone to sit down and be level set and be like, are you willing to jeopardize free agency in less than 30 days? Are you willing to jeopardize a max contract to tear your Achilles? This is not an ACL. This is a torn Achilles. Like, we have not seen players come back and be better with a torn Achilles. We've seen people with ACL come back and be better. Explosive, powerful. Yeah, you can do that. So I really feel bad for him. And this was a long time ago. And I know modern day medicine has advanced itself, but my trainer still works with some of the greatest pitchers in baseball, greatest wide receivers, athletes in the world, NBA players. He was treating people yesterday while we were watching the show and said, Cris, this is a crime right here. It's a crime that one of those doctors did not tell him, if you do not clean up the calf, the Achilles will be stressed out and he will be jeopardizing everything by going on the court. And he said, Cris, I would not let you play unless you could practice for at least a week. I prefer 2. But you need to be on the court and challenge yourself in a practice setting before you go into game action. So I feel
KD didn't.
I feel awful that they did this and he didn't have the information that he could have made whatever decision. And if Kevin Durant, like a lot of athletes, decide to do that, I can live with that. But, man, we need the information.
Well, that's what's baffling about this, is because Steve Kerr, who is a man I trust, a man I have enormous respect for on and off the court, he came out there, and if he'd have said, listen, this is professional sports, we're going for a championship, we did not think it was likely that Kevin Durant would tear his Achilles, but of course we know it's a possibility. We told that to Kevin. The doctors told us it was a 2 out of 100 shot. Kevin talked to his agent, talked to another doctor, and they made the decision. They're going to go out there and, we spun the wheel and got unlucky. That's one thing. But that is not what he said. What he said was, essentially what he said was, this was as shocking to us as if in that game he'd have torn his labrum, because they had nothing to do with each other. And how can that be what your medical team says? How can that be the information he gets when, again, to make the point, Cris, without ever talking to Kevin Durant, said 30 days ago, be careful, don't play. I don't think we'll see him again. Why would we not see him again? Cris, they're going for a 3rd straight championship. He could tear his Achilles.
The morning of the game.
The morning of the game, 33 days into it, said, I don't think he's going to play tonight. He could tear his Achilles. How can he know? And the doctors don't. 2 things came to mind. One, you mentioned risking free agency. Even if Kevin Durant had a lifetime contract, 10 years, he's risking his basketball destiny.
Yes.
He wants to become the all-time scoring champion. He wants to go down in history as one of the 5 greatest players ever. I'm not saying that's off the board.
No, but now he's a year behind.
And everything is altered now because of this. And the one other element that I couldn't help, Jenna, but think about Kawhi Leonard. And the pressure on Kawhi. The doctors are telling us this. The doctors are telling us this. And Kawhi's had some interesting comments about this, about what it's like to know how you're feeling, have other people not understand it. You now understand maybe why some of KD's teammates were whispering, why isn't he back? If they also thought, the worst that can happen to you, man, is you already have a calf strain. Who gives a damn if you have a worse calf strain? Come play. If that's what they thought, then of course he's going to go play. But how could that be the information that he receives and that he makes his decision on?
And the worst part is that he received it from the trainers and the doctors and his team and everyone around him, and they made that collective decision.
And even the thing that was more incriminating, before the game, with very, very limited, no practice time 5-on-5, playing 2-on-2 and 3-on-3, Steve Kerr said these words, there is no restriction on his minutes. And that right there is just idiotic, naive, criminal. He hadn't been spending any practice time. How can you put him on? He don't have no pitch count. He could play 40 minutes. Right. Well, it looked like they was getting ready to put it on his back. So, man, I mean, they messed this up. Now it's just a matter of, will they ever fess up to it?
Can I ask you real quick before we go? Do you think what Steve Kerr said right there is the honest-to-God truth? That in that organization, everyone was shell-shocked that this resulted in a torn Achilles. That nobody thought, guys, he's risking his Achilles.
I was given Bob Myers benefit of the doubt because he was a college basketball player. He might understand. But for all of them, and Kevin's independent doctor who said there's no chance him blowing out his Achilles, I can't believe that 5 people, a couple medical, all these people can Kleiman, his business partner, I expect him to be wrong.
Right. Kerr played, Myers played, the doctors.
I just don't know how they botched it. They botched it a number of ways, and the only way now is to be able to cover it up compared to saying, oh, we messed this up, because they did.
Back here on First Things First, Sports Illustrated senior writer, man of many takes, Chris Mannix is with us.
What up, man?
Sorry, I went off script there for a second. I'm sorry, we're back. It's all
you'd had a perfect game. And now you just walked a batter.
That was
and
a
it's long foul ball.
Listen, you'd had a perfect game. You've
And
now
then-
walked a batter. You're still throwing a no-hitter. So we'll see how the rest of the show goes. But the perfect game's off the board.
How about the man of many, many interesting takes?
It would have been fine. You just don't stumble over it. That's the walking of the batter.
Wow. Start over again tomorrow. Trade talks for Anthony Davis heated up yesterday.
Trade Nick in. That's what we're going to do.
Thank you, C. As it stands, Mannix, the Lakers and Celtics at the forefront of possible destinations for Anthony Davis. L.A. has reportedly offered Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and that number 4 pick in a deal. The Pelicans reportedly really want Kyle Kuzma. The Lakers don't want to part with him. On the Boston side, AD's agent Rich Paul told Sports Illustrated that if the Celtics were to trade for AD, it would simply be a 1-year rental. Lots to unpack here. Mannix, let's start with whether the Lakers are the favorites in all of this.
I think they're a favorite right now. I think if the Pelicans were enamored with that number 4 pick, we'd probably have a deal done. At the moment, they're not. The Lakers are trying to find a taker for that number 4 pick at the moment. I don't know exactly what they're going to be able to get back for that 4th overall pick. It's not anywhere near as valuable as a pick inside the top 3. Teams like the Darius Garlands and the Jarrett Culvers, even Cam Reddish, who I think is going to make some moves on draft night, but not enough to give up anything substantial, at least not anything that the New Orleans Pelicans want. So I'd put the Lakers right now as a slight favorite, but I still think it's very early in this process, and a lot can change over the next week.
Well, when you say early, I was about to say it's early kind of in that they do want this deal done before the draft. The draft, we know when that is.
A week is a long time, though.
Sure. The draft is 1 week from tonight, right? It's June 20th. And so for the Pelicans, the reason they want this done by the draft is because if they are going to receive draft compensation from anyone, they want to be able to pick the player. They want to be able to have a guy that fits what they're trying to do. We talked about this last night. If the Pelicans are good with Ingram and Lonzo, but don't want the pick, they want a player, what type of value does the number 4 pick have across the league to other teams? What are the types of players or the names of some potential options that you think the Lakers could acquire for that 4th pick and flip to the Pelicans?
I do think it depends on the team and how much they value that 4th overall pick and the position that particular team is in. I mean, an Aaron Gordon type makes some sense at that number 4 spot. You know, Clint Capella's name has come up in trade talks before. But then you get into the machinations of making a trade like that with both guys like Capella and Gordon, who are just examples at this point, making max-level money. So you have to figure out how that works on the Pelicans' books to make a deal like that. Look, I think the Lakers are going to spend the next few days and into the next week, if that's what it means, desperately trying to find a taker for that number 4 pick to get something that the Pelicans want. I also don't think that Kyle Kuzma is going to be a deal breaker. I don't think the Lakers are going to hold on to Kyle Kuzma and not get a deal done in exchange for Anthony Davis.
Mannix, are you like me, even concerned that they have the power in the front office, even if they were the favorite, which you say they might be a slight favorite, that they have the intellect, the skillfulness, because it might take another team to be able to pull this off. Do you have confidence, or are you like me, I have a lack of confidence in what the
Lakers could pull off a complex trade involving multiple organizations?
Yes.
That's your concern.
I think that's a fair concern. I think Rob Pelinka is an excellent deal maker. He's done it as an agent in the past. I mean, you can question the types of deals that he makes. When it comes to constructing deals, I think he's capable of doing it. Just the question is, what kind of value can he find for that 4th overall pick, and can he get the Pelicans something that they ultimately want?
I think the Kuzma stuff is a smokescreen. I think that what I think is the Lakers are trying to set up the narrative. If this deal gets done, Ingram, Ball, 4th pick, that they can say, look, we held firm. We didn't give up Kyle Kuzma. The idea that the Lakers would risk not getting Anthony Davis, and I like Kuz, but give me a break.
Right.
Like that's not going to be there. And so I don't think that is a reality of the situation. There was even a report in the LA Times by a writer I have an enormous amount of respect for, Tanya Ganguly, saying that the Lakers, if they were to include Kuzma, maybe they could then keep the 4th overall pick. There is not a person in the world, no, even if the 4th pick doesn't have the value the 3rd pick does, that values
I still want it.
Kuzma more than the 4th overall
100%.
pick. Right.
Yes.
So, all right. So we're on the same page on that. We're on the same page on what the Lakers could offer. The other teams that can get in the game are who, and what is the Celtics' last best offer? Does it involve, as we sit here today, where it looks like Kyrie is out the door, but we won't know that by draft night officially? Does their last best offer involve Jason Tatum? And if not, what can they offer?
I don't believe that without any type of commitment from Kyrie Irving, the Celtics will offer Jason Tatum. He is the best player that could be involved in any currently constructed deal, and the Celtics aren't going to part with him, because if they do and Anthony Davis walks, all the gains they made,
the rebuild was a bust then.
It was a total bust. Do I think they'd include Jaylen Brown in that mix along with draft picks? I do. I think that is a Jaylen Brown-centric offer with a whole bunch of draft picks, and they can go 5, 6 first-round draft picks deep over the next couple of years. I think that's something they'd be willing to put on the table. But I will say this. In the last 48 to 72 hours, since the Kevin Durant injury, there's been, I guess I'd say, a renewed invigoration within the Celtics organization about maybe convincing Kyrie Irving to stay in Boston. I think before the Durant injury, there was a strong belief that he was going to walk out the door. But now that Durant's hurt and likely out for at least next season, and who knows what he looks like beyond that, I think there's a sense that maybe they can convince Kyrie to stay. And if they're able to construct a deal that the Pelicans will accept, even if it includes Jason Tatum, they can turn and go to Kyrie and say, if you stay, we are going to get Anthony Davis. We have this deal in place that we know the Pelicans will accept. All we need is for you to tell us that you're going to stick around.
The one-year rental doesn't scare off the Celtics in any way. He and his team seem adamant that he is only going to be anywhere other than most likely the Lakers for a year.
I would say this. There's not much that really scares Danny Ainge on stuff like this. He just believes that. Look, he's not going to do something stupid. I don't believe. I don't think he's not going to make a Tatum trade with nothing there. He's not going to give up all his assets. But posturing like this doesn't bother Danny Ainge. Just like bringing Kyrie back after all the turmoil doesn't really bother Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge is a player of the 1980s. He was playing in those Celtics locker rooms where most of the time they all hated each other, and it was a lot of back and forth between guys. He believes talent wins championships. So if he can get Kyrie Irving to sign, he will roll the dice and bet on his franchise.
Okay, so 2 points on that, though. First of all, we know the one-year rental scares him in this regard. If in that Sports Illustrated interview, Rich Paul, instead of saying you can trade him to the Celtics and he will be a free agent in 2020, if the quote was, if the Celtics trade for him, he's signing an extension, then guess what? Jason Tatum is traded and it's done. So in that regard, we know it has a chilling effect. And in the other regard, Danny Ainge loves talking about making deals. He does not love the idea of ever potentially, maybe just a chance, losing a deal. You reported he could have had Kawhi Leonard on a one-year rental not for Jason Tatum, but for Jaylen Brown, and decided that's too rich for my blood. So the idea that Ainge, I get it, you would include Tatum if you were not only trading for a year, maybe more of Anthony Davis, but a de facto trading for 4 years of Kyrie, it makes sense. But this is where the timelines don't match up. Kyrie, I would be shocked if Kyrie, after waiting this long, doesn't hit true free agency.
Oh, I agree.
And then Danny Ainge would have to be rolling the dice. And I don't think the Celtics offer can trump the Lakers offer without including Tatum. Doesn't seem like they're going to include Tatum. Jen, I know you don't buy into the one-year rental thing. I'll say it again. If there's a team that's going to not care about the one-year rental and want to get in the game, that team is Denver. Denver has the assets. They can think we can do a Toronto-type situation, try to go win a championship. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of buzz around Denver actually doing that, other than people like me and Mannix and others bringing them up as a possibility.
Not yet at the moment. I think a lot can change over the next couple of weeks. But just to put a button on what an agent says, look, I believe Rich Paul's looking out for the best interest in his client. He firmly believes that L.A., regardless of LeBron, is a good landing spot for Kevin Durant. However, I don't believe that the representatives for Paul George wanted him in Oklahoma City before that trade happened. We certainly know when the Kawhi Leonard trade went down, because there was reports out there, Kawhi doesn't want to be in Toronto. That didn't scare the Raptors off, and look where they are now. So there is a lot of things to gain from rolling the dice.
Back here with Chris Mannix, let's talk about the NBA Finals. Raptors had a chance to close it out in Game 5, but came up just a wee bit short. So tonight, series shifts back to Oracle for Game 6. No Kevin Durant for the Warriors, obviously, but they are still favored by 2.5 points. Mannix, what do you think? Can the Warriors force a Game 7?
I think they can, and I like Golden State in this game. Last game at Oracle Arena, I think the pressure, all of it shifted over to Toronto in this one. Yes, they have a game remaining to win on their home floor, but after losing a Game 5 in the way that they did, and having to go to Oracle Arena in a Game 6, knowing that a Game 7 is something that this team, at least on this scale, is not familiar with. Golden State has been in this situation before. They've won some, they've lost some, but they've been in that type of situation before. I think Golden State would have to feel extremely confident going into a Game 7. There's a lot that has to happen. I mean, efficiency is one from their shooters. You need Clay and Steph not only to score, but to shoot an efficient number. You need Kevin Looney to play and to give you significant minutes, especially on the defensive end. But I think it's going to be a wild atmosphere in that building tonight. You know, rest in peace, Oracle Arena. I hope they tear that building down once it's said and gone. But I think it is going to be a great atmosphere, and I think there's a lot of pressure on the Raptors.
I've always been taught by my coaches, never rely on the crowd. You say, you know when the crowd is loud? When you put on the appropriate type of performance, they will cheer. I went to Ohio State, legendary, older crowd. You have to do something to make them come out of their seats. So as an athlete, I don't like to rely on the crowd because if I'm shooting my jump shot, if I'm catching a pass, the crowd doesn't do that. My skill level and what I've trained myself does that. So you go into a game like this with a false sense of confidence. What do you think Toronto had? You think they had a bigger advantage as home crowd, win their first championship in Canada, Game 5 compared to what they're going to have in Oracle in Game 6? No, I don't believe. This is about which team is better. And if they don't get good minutes out of Kevon Looney from a defensive standpoint, imagine Boogie Cousins, he's got to play 35 minutes on the defensive end. This is the reason why I believe that Toronto, if they get good guard play, because the crowd does not make buckets. When they were on the road, down by 6, Clay, Steph hit those shots. What did the crowd do? They had no effect on the game. What's important about the crowd is the beginning. You can't get boat raced in that first quarter. You can't have them score 34 in the first quarter and you score 22. No, you have to be able to come out, and if they're able to win quarter number 1, which would be quarter number 15 for them, they've outscored out of the 21 quarters, they played 20 so far, then you can believe the Toronto Raptors, because they've outplayed them. They're a better basketball team without Kevin Durant. That's why we picked them. I believe that they get it done in game number 6 and end it.
And that first quarter, we haven't had a Game 6 in the NBA Finals since 2016, when a team in the Cleveland Cavaliers had been down 3-1. They win Game 5 on the road. They come back home for Game 6. And if people remember that game, that's the game Draymond's back. That all of the, after the one-game suspension, LeBron had just dropped 41. And it's the biggest game in the history of the city of Cleveland in that building. And the Cavs opened the game 31-11. And it was over. And, I mean, the Warriors actually outplayed them late. They made it a single-digit game late in the fourth quarter, and then Steph got called for a foul and got so upset he threw his mouthpiece, gets kicked out. But it was over. You can't fall down 20 points in a finals game. You just can't. The opposition's too good. I don't think the Warriors are going to go up 20 on Toronto. But if they're going to win, it has to be, like you said, 34-21 after one. It has to be that the Raptors have used 2 timeouts because it's 11-2 to start the game. That is where I believe the crowd in the NBA can have an effect, that opening momentum, and then the game falls into place. But let's just assume for the moment, first quarter's relatively even, 4 to 5 points in either direction. Then it's going to come down to how many minutes can Steph, Clay, and Draymond play? Can all of those guys play 44-plus minutes? Because that's what the Warriors are going to need. We know what Steph's going to bring to the table. We know what Clay's going to bring to the table. And for the Warriors to have any chance, we have to have an idea of what Draymond can bring to the table. Everyone else, you can't be relying on, is this the game Quinn Cook hits a couple threes? You're not going to win that way. In order to win a Game 7 on the road, you're probably going to need everything I just mentioned, plus Quinn Cook hit a couple threes. But for this game, can your 3 healthy-ish stars play almost the entirety of the game and combine for something like 85 points? That's the Warriors' path to victory.
Well, that's what it seems like it's going to come down to. How important is it for someone not named Steph or Clay to step up and at least give you something in this game tonight? I
think it is important, and it's not the same thing, but I go back to that 4th game of the Portland series where you had Alfonso McKinney playing well in that game. You had Kevin Looney playing well in that game. I agree, you're going to have to get 40-plus minutes from your 3 main stars, but this game is going to be won for Golden State because somebody else else out there make some shots. Maybe it is Quinn Cook. Maybe it's Andre Iguodala having a better offensive game that he's shown for most of the playoffs. Maybe it is Kevon Looney having a double-double of some kind. But when we sit here tomorrow, and if Golden State won, I think a big part of it's going to be because an unheralded player had himself a really good game.
How much of you, my biggest concern if I'm a Raptors fan is the hangover from being that close to a championship. We've talked about it a lot. I haven't heard your opinion on it. How much of an effect of how it's not like they just got thoroughly outplayed and blown out in game number 5. They had a 6-point lead, 3 minutes left. How much do you think, if at all, that impacts tonight's game?
I think it had, not on Kawhi Leonard. I mean, Kawhi is just not wired that way, and he's been in this position before. But I do look up and down the roster, and I look at Kyle Lowry, who has had some clunkers in the playoffs. I wonder how he responds after that moment. I mean, not only just missing that or being that close in a game 5, but missing that shot at the end, which would have won and made him the hero of the entire series. How does he respond against Steph Curry in this particular game? Pascal Siakam, a young player, how does he respond in this particular game? The guys with finals experience, the guys like Kawhi and to a lesser degree Serge Ibaka, and even Marc Gasol, I'm not all that worried about. But the younger players, do they have one of those games like Siakam's had in the postseason where they shoot a low percentage and that opens the door for Golden State to win?
Watch what Kawhi Leonard does in this game. He's going to go out of character. He's going to be far more aggressive. In spurts, we have seen him in the first and in the third quarter try to take over the game. He is the heartbeat of the organization. The coaching staff said it. That Kawhi said this is just practice. Wait till we get into the playoffs. And they have taken their beats from him. They don't take their characteristics from Nick Nurse. And Nick Nurse has done a great job adjusting. I'd like to see what he's going to do in game number 6. But Kawhi Leonard, man, he is going to lead them. And at that beginning of the game becomes very important that he's aggressive.
Back to the NBA Finals. Game 6 tonight in Oracle. I love working with you guys. Toronto, one win away from their first ever NBA championship, the same position they were in for Game 5, by the way. Kawhi Leonard has been phenomenal, averaging a shade under 30 and 11 in the finals. See, how much pressure is on Kawhi and the Raptors this evening?
Well, I think there's more pressure on the Raptors than Kawhi particularly, because I think Kawhi will handle this situation. We have to realize that Kawhi has been in several NBA finals. There has not been a moment that Kawhi reacted as if he was surprised. To me, last shot of the game, they double-teamed Kawhi. Kawhi passed an open guy, tried to get a better shot. Am I surprised? No, not surprised at all. In that situation, that he didn't take it. People say in the Philadelphia game, he took a shot, he went past a double-team. Totally different situation.
That is anyone comparing the two final shots, or it shows such a misunderstanding of basketball, what was going on in Philly and how he was being guarded, and the situation in a tie game where you have to hold for the final shot, where you don't mind taking a bad contested shot there because you have the safety blanket of overtime, and where they were in that situation where if there is criticism of the play, they maybe should have gone a little faster because you're only down 1. If you miss, you want to be able to foul, you have your timeout to advance it. Those are apples and bowling balls. Those are not comparable situations.
Yeah, I just believe the other players on the Raptors, there's more pressure on them, especially early in the game. If they don't make shots, and especially from the three-point. Let's watch them. Can they shoot 50% in the first quarter? Not from the field, but from the three-point line, because it will open up things later in the game, and it will make it easier for Kawhi Leonard. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kawhi puts up a couple threes early to try to ignite their offense.
But, Nick, how much of what CeCe said falls on Kawhi? Getting the other guys involved, getting the other guys to put up shots early, especially a guy like Kyle Lowry, who could be hot or cold in these postseason finals. Even
in this postseason where he's been better at it, what you're talking about right there is not Kawhi's strength. It's not what he's there for. He is not the distributor. He is everything else. He's the best defender on the team. He has turned himself amazingly somehow into arguably the best three-point shooter on the team, obviously the best mid-range guy on the team, the best interior scorer on the team, and these playoffs, the best rebounder on the team. He has been, even in Game 5 when he was struggling, skying above people and using that claw of a hand to snatch important rebounds. He is not going to be the guy that makes sure Danny Green gets going. That's on Nick Nurse and Kyle Lowry. That's on coach and point guard. Kawhi Leonard, I agree, early in this game, he's had a few 15-point quarters in these finals. 15's a big number. He needs to have a double-digit first quarter to calm his team, to remind his team, guys, we've been better than them the whole series. Chris Mannix, and you alluded to, how does Kyle Lowry respond to having the finals in his hand and Draymond tipping the shot? I'm going to say the guy who touched the ball before him. Fred VanVleet had the ball. It was deep three, but it was an open three. How does Fred VanVleet respond to what I would imagine is extreme what-if regret of, why not just shoot it? I could have won the finals. I could have, how do you respond as an athlete to a missed opportunity, and does that have a lingering effect?
I always try to get into how athletes respond. And the ones that are playing at this level, it's just amazing that the ones that have that type of ability, that the maker, God, puts in that. They don't think about that kind of stuff. Fred didn't have a great look because Kawhi wasn't able to drive into the lane. That's what they've been doing most of this playoff. Round one, round two, drive, kick, and then kick again for the open shot that you have pointed out a number. That took that away, so that second defender was closer to him. I just believe it's easier for them to blanket out. I'm going to go back to what Nick Nurse said when they won the first game in Oracle to take a 2-1 lead. We come here to win one. There was one guy who stood up and said something. It was Kawhi Leonard. He was like,
using that, let's take them both.
Yeah, so
this is what he said.
For me, I believe that this moment, Kawhi is going to understand. I believe he's going to understand the missed opportunity in game number 5. They had to close it out and takes advantage of it in game number 6.
If the Raptors win tonight, it'll be because Kawhi and who? Who else has to step up? Who do you think else has to step up in order for the Raptors? I
think it'll be Kawhi plus Kyle Lowry and a third guy, whether that's Gasol or Siakam. I don't think you can close out Oracle and win a championship because two guys have a great game. Kawhi has to be sensational, but that's been almost a given these playoffs. Lowry's got to be good, Kyle Lowry, and another guy.
I believe that second guy, Jenna's got to be Pascal Siakam. I believe because of the way he would score. If you tell me Kyle Lowry can score 20 points. Pascal Siakam can score 20 points. I want Pascal because you know the reason why? He's going to put Draymond in foul trouble. He's going to get to the bucket. He's going to have a variety of ways that he penetrates in the lane that will open up things for other players. So I'd like to see Pascal Siakam. If there's a number 2, I need him to have a good game.
And if Siakam gets to 20 and it's not because he's at the bucket, it's because he has hit those wide open threes they're giving him. And if he hits a few of those, it will destroy the integrity of the Warriors defense because their game plan is leave him open. He starts making them. You can't do that anymore. That opens everything up for the other guys.
And Draymond can't afford any more foul trouble.
Well, if he gets a technical in this game, even if they win, he's not there for Game 7. Now, that would be unbelievable. But I think he would have to throw a chair at a ref to get a technical tonight. I do not think
it's going to be a lot of emotion.
I don't
think that's going to be an easy task.
What's that?
To turn off the emotion with the crowd, this being the last game. Like, it's going to be hard.
All right, to the NBA now. Very busy day for Kyrie Irving yesterday. Reportedly opted out of his contract with Boston, ensuring that he will become a free agent. Irving also reportedly moved on from his longtime agent and is eyeing Rock Nation, who coincidentally also reps Kevin Durant. See, what does this all mean for where Kyrie ends up?
I don't think it means that much. I think that he was going to go through transition. Let's go back to the beginning when he requested a trade out of Cleveland because he wanted his own franchise. Boston was not on the list of teams that he wanted to go to. So I look, he's going to come to New York, and the Knicks and the Nets right now, it's 50-50 who can get him. I don't believe him changing agents, who actually one of the executives at Rock Nation, his brother, is one of the executives for the Nets. I'm not going to lead too much into that. I believe he wants to be on the East Coast, but in New York City, and he'll be at one of those franchises.
I think Kyrie has a very good idea of where he's going. I think he believes right now he's going to Brooklyn. I would say Brooklyn's the leader, then the Knicks, then the only other team to me on the board is the Lakers, but Boston's not there. To me, these are separate issues, though. As far as he's going to get a max contract, Rock Nation offered to waive the commission on this contract in order to get his marketing rights. So it might be as simple as about a $5 million savings for Kyrie Irving.
I would be careful. Last week, I believe Brooklyn had a lead. I believe the Knicks are getting a lot closer. And also, I believe that the Knicks are still on board. Number 1 plan signed Kevin Durant, who's also a client of Rock Nation. So I believe there could be some marketing they could piggyback off each other that could lead him to playing in the Garden.
Interesting. All right, finally, trade talks for Anthony Davis heated up yesterday. As it stands, the Lakers and the Celtics are at the forefront of possible destinations. LA has reportedly offered Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and that number 4 pick in a deal for AD. Pelicans reportedly really wanted Kyle Kuzma, but the Lakers do not want to part ways with him. On the Boston side, AD's agent, Rich Paul, told Sports Illustrated that if the Celtics do indeed trade for AD, it would be simply a one-year rental. All right, lots to get to here. Nick, we'll start with this. Are the Lakers heavy favorites to land Anthony Davis?
I believe they are, and I believe it's because Rich Paul and Anthony Davis had a plan. It was a much criticized plan because of the way they implemented it during the season, seemingly blowing up the Pelicans season and having an aftershock effect on the Lakers season. But the plan's been very clear. Get Anthony Davis to the Lakers. And with the comments about the Celtics, it would just be a rental. With the comments about not even entertaining the idea of trying out playing with Zion Williamson, you are slowly but surely crossing off viable contenders. Cris can expand more on whether or not the Knicks are even going to make the best offer they absolutely could. It does not appear they will. Anthony Davis wants to play for the Lakers. He is executing what is now known, I guess, as pre-agency, which is not a free agent yet, but I'm about to be, so you might as well get something for me. And the Lakers have, thanks to some lottery luck, now a very legitimate trade package to submit. 2 former number 2 overall picks and a number 4 overall pick in this year's draft. Who's going to trump that? Who is going to come in and make a better offer than that? Not the Celtics, because they're not going to include Jason Tatum. If they did include Jason Tatum, they could have Anthony Davis today, but they're not going to do that. And so are the Nuggets really going to look at what happened in Toronto and say, you know what, we'll try? I don't think it'd be a terrible idea, but I haven't heard anyone saying that they're going to do that. Just people like me speculating they have the assets to make it work. The Clippers don't have the assets. The Clippers have a better team right now, overall supporting cast than the Lakers, but they don't have the young ascending players and they don't have a top 5 pick. So who is the other team that's going to trump what the Lakers have to offer?
Well, I do believe that Anthony Davis, when they started out on this course to leave the Pelicans, I do believe there was 2 destinations. I believe that he verbalized that in saying he would go to New York with the Knicks or he would go to Los Angeles. Now, I believe that the Lakers, they're getting a tremendous benefit from the Kevin Durant injury, because if we're sitting here today, I don't know if Rich Paul and AD can say that New York is still not a destination. I've heard from a source that Anthony Davis, he would like to come to New York if he couldn't get to Los Angeles. But if you remove KD and if you remove LeBron, he believes that they're about equal as a franchise. But LeBron James now, and what he believes him and AD can do together, I believe that swung them, Rich Paul and them, to decide, because of they can't sign a long-term deal with the Knicks. They can't sign a long-term deal with Boston. So they're really not in this race. This is a one-team race, because the Lakers are the only team he will sign the extension, so you will not get the best offers. But I do believe when they started off down this course, there were 2 destinations, one being New York City with the Knicks and one being with the Lakers.
And just real quick, Rich has been adamant that even if he's traded to the Lakers, he is not preemptively signing an extension, that no matter where he goes, he's going to enter free agency next year. But the Lakers know. Why what?
Why would you even say that? You've been hinting that you want to be with the Lakers this whole time.
He thinks
Why add another wrinkle to it?
I'm just telling. Listen, that's a question, I guess, for Rich Paul, and for Anthony Davis.
It's a huge chance, too, that Rich Paul's taking with his business if Anthony Davis ends up getting hurt when he has a contract sitting there waiting for him to sign. So it's a huge risk that he's taking.
And again, maybe they would get there and they'd change their mind. But what he said in that Sports Illustrated article is he is entering free agency. He said it repeatedly. No matter who trades for him, he's entering free agency. But they also, in that interview, said the Lakers are like dating J-Lo. Why would you not want to do it? That's his words, not mine. Talked about how even if LeBron wasn't here, you have Mike and you have Chamberlain, you have Kareem, you have Shaq, like a legacy of big men. He clearly wants to be in Los Angeles long term. I would caution the Lakers and Rob Pelinka of one thing, which is don't overplay your hand here. See, you and I both recently are in the market for a new house, right? Both moving. And there is an instance when you find the place you love, where part of you's like, man, I think I can get it a little bit cheaper. And then what do you run the risk?
Losing it.
Of losing it. And then regretting it. And then having to settle. And then saying, man, was a few X amount of dollars worth it? The place they love is Anthony Davis. The only way to salvage this for the Lakers is Anthony Davis. The only realistic way to compete for a championship next year is Anthony Davis. The Pelicans know that. So the Pelicans, if they at the last minute say, guess what? We actually want an additional future first. You include it. Because the way to get this era off the ground, which stalled for a year in Los Angeles, is to acquire Anthony Davis this offseason.
FS1's your destination for the day's best sports shows. Tune in for the biggest personalities on the biggest stories. We get you started right here on First Things First. Catch it on Monday through Friday only on FS1.
Jenna races in to get us started every morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern.
Race in slow motion. Back here with Chris Mannix. Let's talk about Kevin Durant. Thank you. KD did, in fact, rupture his Achilles. He underwent surgery in New York on Wednesday. Durant took to Instagram to make the announcement saying, in part, my road back starts now. I got my family, my loved ones by my side, and we truly appreciate all the messages and support people have sent our way. Like I said Monday, I'm hurting deeply, but I'm okay. Basketball is my biggest love, and I wanted to be out there that night because that's what I do. I wanted to help my teammates on our quest for the three-peat. Now, Steve Kerr spoke yesterday and defended the team's decision to clear Durant.
Kevin checked all the boxes, and he was cleared to play by everybody involved. Now, would we go back and do it over again? Damn right. But that's easy to say after the results. When we gathered all the information, our feeling was the worst thing that could happen would be a re-injury of the calf. And that was the advice and the information that we had. And at that point, once Kevin was cleared to play, he was comfortable with that. We were comfortable with that. So the Achilles came as a complete shock. So it's devastating, mostly for Kevin, obviously. But we made the decision collaboratively with all the information that we had, and we thought it was the right one.
See, how did the Achilles come as a complete shock to doctors and trainers and other medical team members with the Warriors?
I don't know how they can get this wrong. I can understand if Kevin Durant and his business partner, Rich Kleiman, if they decided that they're going to get in a room and talk. I don't expect his business partner to understand. I don't expect Kevin Durant to understand his body the way that trainers and doctors and everything are supposed to do. I can understand them deciding, you know something, as an athlete, I'm going to push myself. I've seen some of the greatest performances by guys pushing themselves beyond what they can do. That's what sports is all about. But it's typically based on a set of information. So I was totally shocked. And I've been talking about this when he got hurt. I'd be shocked if he played anymore. I tore both my calves, my left and my right. And I know people might be like, oh, he's a football player. He don't know what he's talking about. On the day of the damn game, I said that he could tear his Achilles. Now, maybe if someone in the basketball world, maybe if they had said it, maybe the world might be giving them some type of attention for it. I don't want attention from myself, but let's go to the basketball world. Was the basketball world shocked that Kevin Durant, in the comments that they didn't understand, he could blow out his Achilles?
I wouldn't say shocked, and I've spent the last couple of days talking to different medical personnel from different NBA staffs, and there certainly is an overcompensation that can happen when you have a calf injury. The issue that comes up the most is the fact that there was no practice time for this. And any player that's coming off a significant injury, there's a difference between medically cleared and ready to play. So if this was the regular season and Kevin Durant was medically cleared to play, he would go through days, if not weeks, of full practice time to ramp up to this moment. He was effectively just airdropped into the most intense and high-pressure situation when his body had done nothing, virtually nothing, up until that point. He had a couple of light practices. He had maybe some 5-on-5 work. We don't really know what was going on at some of those practices, but nothing close to emulate game competition. That's what I hear the most as being the most problematic from different, different teams' medical personnel, that there wasn't the full amount of practice time that you need to get your body physically ready to play in an NBA game.
And then what did Kerr say, despite all that, was going to be his workload for game number 5.
Spurts, short spurts.
Short spurts, but no minutes restriction.
Right.
So first of all said no minutes restriction, then said short spurts. And there's no specific definition of a short spurt, but it's not 12 of the first 14 minutes. But the part of this that is the most vexing, and I don't want to sit here and say Steve Kerr's not telling the truth because I have such tremendous respect for him. But I almost hope he's not telling the truth. Because the idea that no one could bring up what I thought pretty obvious, which is the kinetic chain, and that weakening in one area can lead to another. How many guys have we heard that they have you have an issue in one knee and it leads to tendonitis in the other? The calf, what is it connected to? Well, it's connected, I think, on the top to the hamstring and on the bottom to the Achilles. What's the weak point? Like, these are obvious things. And things that guys who have played, like yourself, who's dealt with it, were hammering the table saying, like, A, he's not dogging it, not getting back. The reason you got so upset the day of the game was because I brought up the athletic report of teammates saying, well, why isn't he back yet? And you said, he's not back because he could pop his Achilles. His teammates maybe thought, well, no, he can't. We're being told.
Based on the information.
Based on the information, we're being told all he can do is restrain his calf. The hell does he care about
Same thing that was told to Tony Parker when he spoke out about Kawhi Leonard. When he said, oh, my quad was 100 times worse? Really? And typically, NBA locker rooms, NFL locker rooms, the players don't force the players onto the field. They have it in their DNA. They want to be out there. We respect injuries. We respect that more than anything else. So I didn't think they had the correct information.
But make the decision. No one would say if Kevin Durant was given the full information, it would be his right to say, you know what, worth it. I'm going to try. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to roll the dice. But I say this, I say this to my son all the time because he's now old enough to where I can't live his life for him. He's got to make his own decisions. But I try to give him advice. I say, man, you have to give me the full information. If you are keeping something from me, if you're not giving me the full details, I can't give you adequate advice. If Kevin Durant needed the full information to make an informed decision, and he's a grown man, and he can make his own decision there, but it would sound like, from what Kerr's own words, he was not given the full information, and that's devastating to make a decision of this magnitude.
Or if anything, he was giving partial information in that they told him, well, a severe calf strain is the worst that could happen if you go out there. That's the worst. Because you said as a professional athlete, if you were told that, okay, that I could deal with. I can go out there and deal with more of a calf strain.
Yeah, in a championship game, I'm trying to three-peat. I'm Kevin Durant. I saw when the team needed me in the Clippers series. You saw what I turned into there. In this series, they need them. They're down 3-1. I told Nick before Game 4, you know what's going to happen? Raptors going to win. They're going to force Kevin Durant onto the court. And there's nothing I wanted to see as far as Kevin Durant being hurt. And this is not revisionist history for me, where people see something like, oh, well, now they go back on it. I was saying this before it happened, and I did not want to see it. So I feel bad for Kevin Durant that he did not have the opportunity to have all the information.
The teammate stuff, though, is the most vexing because this is 2 years in a row of it, where you had in the San Antonio organization players and coaches publicly, I don't want to use the word calling out, but at least suggesting. Cajoling. There you go. You should be a writer. They had a nice word.
No problem.
Just cajoling the Kawhi Leonard to get back on the floor. And then you have these reports of teammates of Kevin Durant's saying he should be back on the floor. Teammates should know better.
Yes.
Professional athletes should know better. I mean, it's one thing for pundits to sit on high and say, Kevin Durant should get out there and play. I never had a major calf injury. I never played the game. I also never suggested that Kevin Durant should play, but other people were. It's one thing for the media to wonder, where's Kevin Durant? But shouldn't teammates know better? Shouldn't players who have so much invested in the game and so much invested in their bodies not know better?
This is the problem, though. When you know dude is leaving, man, we're trying to get him out there. We need to use him to get this three-peat. I got Clay coming back from a hamstring. I got Kevon Looney almost fractured his collarbone. He's on the court in a harness playing basketball. Those types. Iguodala's had a hamstring, has something in his Achilles. Like, he's had a number of things, and they've all returned. That pressure plus a lack of information led to what we saw.
And the reason that the only way a teammate could, even if they believe he's leaving, a lot of these guys clearly really like Kevin Durant as a person. They're close, lifelong friends now. But if the information they're getting is, man, the worst thing that's going to happen is the calf strain. then I would understand some frustration because it's like the risk is minimal. But the point you made, go ahead, C.
I want to go back to Boogie Cousins. What was the attitude of the ownership, the general manager, the coach, and all the players? They were in sync. Take your time. What was he coming back from?
An Achilles.
Oh, an Achilles.
Right.
So now Kevin Durant, because they didn't have the information, everyone is rushing him. He's rushing himself because he's an athlete. It's in his DNA.
The biggest mistake the Warriors made in all this was that, and Steve Kerr admitted that the information he got from the beginning was that Kevin Durant, it could be weeks or months. They should have put a longer timetable on this from the very beginning.
So that wasn't
with
the
first
slow
injury.
drip.
So we weren't wondering.
Expectations.
They let the mild calf strain report hang out there. And when you hear mild calf strain and a month has passed and you're into the NBA Finals, that puts public pressure. And I'm sure that bleeds into the locker room.
And the point you made yesterday, I just want to reiterate quickly before we go. And this is maybe why Bob Myers was so emotional after the game. He was an agent once. And he has to ask himself, if instead of being Kevin Durant's boss, I was his agent, would I have told him in the exact same circumstance, hell no, you're not playing? Or would I have told him, hey, man, worst you can do is strain the calf further. We need you. And I think that's a tough question for him to answer. And for Kevin Durant's current actual agent, Rich Kleiman, whose job is to be a shield for his client, take all the criticism. Should he have thrown himself more in front of this train and said, I'm not letting criticize me all you want. He's not playing. He's injured. Neither of those things happened. And now a guy who had idea of becoming the NBA's all-time leading scorer maybe is going to miss the season of basketball potentially.
Back to the NBA Finals now. Game 6 tonight in Oracle. Tonight, Toronto will sit one win away from their first ever NBA championship. The same position they were in the other night in Game 5. Kawhi Leonard has been phenomenal throughout, averaging a shade under 30 and 11 in the finals. Mannix, how much pressure is on Kawhi and the Raptors tonight?
I think there's pressure on both the Raptors and Kawhi. I think the Raptors, there's pressure as a team because going back to a Game 7 against a Warriors team that is comfortable in that environment, that has been involved in Game 7s in the past, I think that's difficult. And for Kawhi, I'm kind of curious what the reaction would be if they wound up losing this series. I think we all agreed that if Kawhi Leonard led this team to a win, it would burnish his resume significantly. He would be elevated in the minds of everyone. But what happens if they lose this series? If they blow a 3-1 lead and Kawhi Leonard is the centerpiece of that franchise, do his credentials take a hit because of that?
Didn't hurt Steph Curry.
Oh, I think it did. I think it did.
I don't think we blame Steph Curry.
I think we now, because they won the next 2 championships, they've had this run. I think that in real time, in the moment, here's what it did to Steph Curry. Steph was about to take that golden ring we always talk about as best player in the world, back-to-back MVP, unanimous MVP, 73-win team, and LeBron not only took it back from him, but seemingly almost made him ineligible for it. Like nobody since then has discussed him as, is he the best player in the world? I think Kawhi, even if they were to not win this series, if they were to blow a 3-1 lead themselves, he has elevated himself so much in this playoff run, he would come down a little bit from where he is right now, but he wouldn't be further back than where the playoff run started because he has been sensational. Agreed. And I think everyone understands he literally won them Game 7 with the jump shot in the second round. He was the difference maker in the 4 straight wins against Milwaukee.
Against the MVP.
Against the MVP. And he's been the best player in this series through 5 games, I think by a pretty decent margin. Like I don't even Raptor, who would be get the second most Finals MVP votes, would be. I got no clue.
I think for Kawhi though, if they win this series and he continues down this path of playing as well as he has, he can be in the discussion of being one of, if not the best playoff performers of this generation. In that mix for sure. If they lose this series, I think that gets taken off the table, especially being up 3-1 with Kevin Durant not on the other side of the floor.
And if you look at, he took down the Heat. People joke, say he took down the Spurs.
Yeah.
Now he would take down the Warriors. I do understand the difference in he lost the series compared to if he won the series. But the truth of the matter, if people are being truthful, man, we don't know Kawhi. I mean, I do. I mean, I know him as well as you can know him. We don't know how he's going to react. He's responding in every other situation. I believe he'll be more aggressive in this situation than he's been in these finals, in spurts. he took over a first quarter. In spurts, he took over the third quarter. But for me, Kawhi Leonard, I believe right from the beginning, Nick Nurse gets him right involved in the action, and they try to get him to be aggressive in that first quarter to be able to take that crowd out of the game, be able to take some of the momentum that the Warriors were able to create in game number 5.
And Kawhi and Danny Green have very specific experience that can help them in this situation, where they were on the team that prior to the Raptors in Game 5 was the closest to a championship and lost.
They had the trophy. They were roping off the court.
They were roping off the court.
I was there for that one.
Right, and so they know how Pop got them ready for Game 7. And again, I know they lost Game 7, but it was they didn't melt down. That wasn't.
No, they played a good. That was
they
a great
played a
NBA
great
game,
and the Heat were just flatly better. That was probably the best of all those Heat teams they had won during the season. They had a 27-game winning streak. It wasn't a choke job there. I'm not worried about Kawhi in this game at all. Almost everybody else is real concerned. How do they respond to being that close to this environment and to what I am certain is in the back of some of their minds, which is, man, even though it's at home, we do not want a Game 7 here. Like the Warriors, they played in a Game 7 against OKC. They played in a Game 7 against Cleveland. They played in a Game 7 last year against Houston on the road. And so the Warriors also would be in a position of desperately wanting the Game 7. The Raptors trying to avoid it. That, to me, is an interesting wrinkle.
Let's just say this, because I always get into this with you. My coaches have always told me people overemphasize how the wins and how the losses come. In the NFL, they do it all the time. Teams start off slow, then they catch fire. Let's just say this. Let's say Toronto and the Warriors, they split in Oracle. All right?
And it's 2-2.
And let's just say the Raptors come back. They won the last game. They win it by 1 point. Kevin Durant comes back. He gets hurt. What are you guys' feelings going into game number 6? Are they different than what they are?
For me, they would be. I think the emotion of the previous game can carry over, and that would be my concern here.
Yeah, I think it would be different. But the player I'm watching tonight is Kyle Lowry the most. I mean, Kyle Lowry's had a terrific postseason. He's exercised some of his own personal demons, but he's also thrown up the occasional clunker in the postseason. And I don't know what the effect's going to be of him missing that shot at the end of Game 5. He needs to play exceptionally well in this game on both ends of the floor, because we know Steph Curry's coming to play. We know he's probably going to attempt 25, 30 shots. Kyle Lowry's got to be good on that end, and he's got to be efficient on the offensive end. That's the one guy I'm watching the closest tonight.
What a great story that would be, them getting their first championship, Kyle Lowry, what he went through with Rose and being traded.
Everything Kyle Lowry's gone through from the beginning, from his early stage of his career when
bouncing around the league.
Admitted he was a knucklehead, changed his entire perception on basketball. He's a great guy and a great story. I want to see how he reacts tonight.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.